What is up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Fantasy Fellow Show. My name's Kyle. In tonight's video, we got a football game tonight. It's Thursday night football. We're going to be getting a live game started in about 45 minutes, so we'll hang out for the next half an hour or so. I think it's an exciting game tonight, not as much as we would have been if we had a healthy Jonathan Taylor and, of course, Javonte Williams, but we'll get into that game. I think for the most part here, we're here to just answer your start-sit questions. I'm going to go over some of the player news and all the practice reports that came through today. So let's hop into a screen share. Good evening to Harris. Hope you're doing well, my man. We'll probably start with the player news here. If you guys got questions, fill them in. Again, we're going to go live for the next half an hour or so. Let me pull up the player news here. Of course, Jonathan Taylor not playing tonight. A couple other inactives here, nothing too crazy. I guess the big part for the Colts is their best player offensively, Jonathan Taylor, and their best player defensively, Shaq Leonard, not playing in this one. So I'm sure I'll get a lot of it seems to me that the two most popular people I've been getting questions on this week have been Michael Pittman Jr. and Nyheim Hines. What do we do with those two? I don't know. We'll see. Harris's first question here is Deontay Johnson or Alan Lazard if no Curtis Samuel? PPR. So yeah, the Curtis Samuel thing is weird. He popped up on the practice report with an illness. Did not practice today or yesterday. So tomorrow is going to be a big day for him. If he's able to practice tomorrow, I feel good about it. I think at the moment right now, he's probably going to play. It's early in the week yet. He's got, all day Friday, all day Saturday to kind of shake that bug, whatever's going on. But if that's the case, I'm probably going to lean with Alan Lazard here. So I'd rank them Curtis, Lazard, Deontay. There might be a shift happening in Pittsburgh. Maybe we see George Pickens, be the guy that Kenny Pickett likes to throw the ball to. So I'm kind of iffy on Deontay. And it's a tough matchup for Deontay as well. I'm going to rank them Curtis, Lazard, Deontay Johnson. But let's go over some of the player news here. For the Chargers, you got Josh Palmer limited. Gerald Everett added to this injury report with a hamstring. I'm not sure what's going on here. I know Keenan Allen did not practice, so that's a little bit of a concern. I think even if Keenan Allen plays, I'm not going to play him. But right now it's looking like Keenan Allen is doubtful for Sunday. So if no Keenan Allen, I'm going to like Gerald Everett in my lineup. A couple Raiders on the practice report. Again, these guys play on Monday Night Football. Darren Waller limited with a shoulder. I think he's going to be fine. And then good for Hunter Renfrow. He sat the last 2 weeks with a concussion. Looks like he is getting a full day today. He's going to be playing on Monday Night Football. A couple other ones here. Rondale Moore added to the injury report. We're not really interested in him. If no Rondale Moore, we're going to like Greg Dortch, though. Greg Dortch had been playing pretty well when Moore was not in there. So if you need someone as an emergency play, Greg Dortch, if no Rondale Moore. J.K. Dobbins full, Russell Gage limited. Let's go ahead and look at some of these questions we got. Good evening to Fabian. Start two, Connor J. Rubber Sanders. I have Monty on the bench. So it looks like Monty, I believe he got a limited day in. He's dealing with that high ankle sprain. So even if he plays, I'm not sure what his workload's going to be. It's also a tough matchup at Minnesota. I would expect Minnesota to kind of do what they want offensively. So maybe it's not a big rushing day for the Bears. So I'm leaning towards your best bet, James Robinson. He's probably the clear guy. And then I think at the moment right now, you got to continue to use Miles Sanders. He looks really good. I think he's like a top 10 or top 12 RB in PPR right now. So I'm going to say if I had to rank these guys, I'm going to go J-Rob, Sanders as your top two. Connor would be my 3. Montgomery would be my 4. And we dropped Chase Edmonds in PPR. He's been frustrating, especially like the PPR format was supposed to be the one that we were excited about Chase Edmonds. And all of a sudden, it looks like Raheem Mostert kind of stole the show. I did want to show you guys. Let's pull up that Dolphins game. That would have been last week. Let me see if I can find it. Here we go. Miami at Cincinnati. This was all Raheem Mostert in this game. So if you look at the snaps, 46-18 for Raheem. For routes run, 26-9, which that was what we were supposed to be getting from our guy Chase Edmonds. So that's a huge concern there. 3 targets apiece, 15 carries for Raheem, 5 for Chase Edmonds. So I'm fine with dropping Chase Edmonds in 10-man leagues if that's where you need to be. Let's continue with the news. Jarvis Landry limited today. I'm sure we'll get to some more Saints news here in a second. Jonnu Smith limited. Alvin Kamara limited. Let's just go ahead and pull up those Saints practice reports here because we should be watching these guys intently. A couple do not practices here. Michael Thomas, back-to-back DNPs. Same with Jameis Winston. I think So I looked at the Saints. Their bye is not till week 14. You might just see them be really cautious with both Thomas and Winston this week. So I'm probably more on the doubtful side than questionable for both these guys. So if you're in Superflex, Andy Dalton comes into play. And I think if no Michael Thomas, you're going to continue to use Chris Olave. And as you can see, Jarvis Landry's on the injury report here too. So I think Olave in for a good game. Going up against Seattle, I'm not overly concerned. Again, if you guys do have questions or want to look at the fantasy points allowed stats, a lot of these numbers help me make decisions. So like with Fabian's question here, I mean, James Robinson going up against the team that allows the most points to running back, like that's a smash spot for me there. And then Philly going up against Arizona, that's a good spot. So you have two really nice matchups with those running backs. So use the fantasy points allowed charts and try and learn some things and see if you guys want to play this player or that player. I usually will go towards the matchup. Good evening to Hayden. Hope you're doing well. Pick 2 in PPR: J.K. Hines, Dillon, Jeff Wilson Jr., Mostert. You're starting J.K. Dobbins. The Nyheim Hines question, man. So I've been going back and forth all day with Nyheim Hines with some friends of mine. I think you're probably going to see Nyheim Hines get 7 to 10 carries tonight, maybe 30 yards on the ground. So those are 3 points there. And then in the passing game, a lot of the player prop bets here for this game, they have Nyheim. People are taking the over on Nyheim. So give him 4 catches. And then what's his receiving total? He's at about 26.5. So that's roughly 7 points from the receiving numbers and maybe 3 from the ground. So he's got a floor of about 9 to 10 points. So if you're comfortable with that for your RB2, I'm cool with it. But otherwise, Jeff Wilson Jr., Mostert, Dillon, these guys are all probably going to get 15 touches. I think I'm going to go with J.K. Dobbins, and then it's always a Dillon week for me. I know Jeff Wilson Jr. has been good to you the last couple of weeks. But just in terms of matchups here, let me look and see if we can find anything that sticks out. Technically, like the Jets here, Raheem Mostert could find a nice game here. I think I'm going to go with JK and Nyheim Hines, though. Trade Prescott. If you can, yeah. If someone's willing to do that, let's do it. And if you have a good, QB2, like do it. That's a good move. Start Judy, Ertz, Marvin Jones. I'm going to go with Judy. Good matchup for Judy tonight. The Colts against the wide receiver. Again, their best player on defense is not playing. I know the Colts are stingy to opponent wide receivers here, but it is a good matchup. I think you want to get Judy in your lineup tonight. If you don't want Judy, go with Ertz. Pick 3, PPR, Adam, Sutton, T, Pittman. We're going to bench Michael Pittman. Go with Adam, Sutton, and T. Trade Prescott. If you can, man, if you can get, I would rather have Justin Jefferson than Jonathan Taylor, if that helps. If you're able to deal Dak Prescott for one of those 2 players, like both of them are severe wins for you. Because I think even when Dak returns, he's kind of like a QB 8 to 10 range. Like he's not like a top 5 option every week. But I do think Justin Jefferson, man, if you can land that, go ahead and do it. That's a big deal. Good evening to Ryan. Hope you're doing well, my man. Let me know if you got any questions. We're just going over some of the player news right now. Again, we'll hang out for another 20 minutes or so. It looks like Hayden Hurst was limited today. Jawan Jennings practicing. T. Higgins, he's been kind of banged up throughout the year, so I'm not too concerned about him getting limited. He's been pretty tough and playing through a lot of things, whether it's concussion or shoulder or foot, ankle. He is in a good matchup for the Ravens, so you want to get T in your lineup. Again, David Montgomery. I'm probably going to start getting a lot of David Montgomery questions. I'm not super excited to get him in my lineup this week unless you needed to. He's probably a low-end RB2. I don't think the matchup's very good going up against Minnesota. And you might see just with his first game back, maybe it's Khalil Herbert has been good for them. Maybe it's a kind of a 50-50 split. I would lean towards leaving Monty on my bench this week. It does look like Keenan Allen's not playing tonight, or not playing Sunday. So you want to lean into Mike Williams. You want to lean, of course you're starting Eckler, but it also means probably good things for Gerald Everett if he gets cleared to go. Brian Hoyer on IR with the concussion. That's kind of weird. That's a 4-week absence with a concussion. That's strange. Aiden says he's rocking with Hines and Sutton tonight. I'm always on the Sutton bandwagon. So Sutton's my guy tonight. I think Sutton, Judy are having good games. You can see people are taking the over on Sutton yards. I think Judy's probably going to go over 51.5 yards tonight. You got Sutton. People are smashing the over on his 4.5 receptions. Judy, people are taking the under on his 4.5. I think he's probably in that 4 to 5 range. I think that's an interesting take there. I think he could get to 5. So I like both Broncos receivers the most for Denver. And then on the Colts side, it's a tough matchup for Pittman, man. Surtain, no joke. I still think Pittman's going to get his targets though, so don't be afraid to use him. It's just you got to expect a floor game, maybe 8 to 10 points as worst case scenario, and we'll go from there. Yes, in non PPR, Harris. Yeah, you got to do that. It's non PPR. You got to go with the guy that's getting the touches, and that's Raheem. Matt Bain, what's up, my dude? Melvin, fumbling, stumbling Gordon, or Mac Hollins versus the Chiefs. I think I'm one of those guys that's not super excited about Melvin Gordon. I think the matchup is pretty good for him tonight. And the coaches have been saying the right things. I think if you're just looking to lock in a good 7 to 10 point floor, go with Melvin. And he does have, when I was looking at the DraftKings odds for this game, let me scroll to the touchdowns. They have Melvin Gordon as being the highest odds for a touchdown. So if someone's going to score, it looks like DraftKings says it's going to be Melvin Gordon tonight. So I think you want to do that. And Matt, on the other side of that for Mac Hollins, Hunter Renfrow is going to play. So that does take some opportunity off his plate. I think you probably got to go with Melvin. He's going to get the touches tonight, and you just need him to pop a couple big plays and maybe get that touchdown. So Melvin is my answer. Let's keep going with the news. Boston Scat Limited here. Jacoby Myers is on track to play. He hasn't gotten a full practice since week 2, but this is good that he's trending towards playing with a limited session. Breece Hall Limited, I think that's just just being nicks and bruises. That's just them being cautious with him. Tyreek Hill Limited, he's going to be fine. Big one for Zay Jones. We had the Marvin Jones question earlier. I think Zay's going to play in this one. If Zay does not play, that Jamal Agnew, he didn't play a lot of snaps, but he got a lot of looks. So I think if Zay Jones is out, I might prefer Jamal Agnew over Marvin Jones. CeeDee Lamb didn't practice today, but he says he's fine. So I think it's just more of a rest day for anything. We covered the Saints with Winston and Thomas. Deontay Johnson Limited, I think it's just soreness. He's saying he's going to be good to go for week 5, so no worries on Deontay. But let's see here. Aiden's saying, do you think Pitts is going to play? I don't know, man. I do not typically, if my guy is going to be back-to-back DNPs Wednesday, Thursday, it's not looking good, especially with the hamstring. We mentioned a guy like Curtis Samuel earlier. He's not practicing on Wednesday and Thursday because of an illness. I think that's more likely for him to play than it is the guy missing Wednesday and Thursday because of an actual injury. So at the moment right now, I think you're probably going to see them be very cautious with Kyle Pitts. And even if he plays, man, the hamstring, if you have a better tight end, I think I would look for a better tight end. I can see that. I understand. Let's actually pull this up. Let me go to, where is my Raiders numbers from last week? Denver at LVR. Let's scroll on down here. It gives me the box score, which is weird. Where is he? So receiving. So Mac Hollins, last week though, that was kind of his floor game, 3 for 33. I think the floor, the range of outcomes for Mac Hollins is much more severe. You're probably looking at, again, like the 6-point floor and he could blow up for 20, right? Whereas with Melvin Gordon, I feel like his opportunity is a little bit higher for a floor. You're probably looking at an 8 to 10 point floor and maybe a 20-point ceiling. So it's a little bit more consolidated. I will say this, Melvin Gordon's a safer play, but if you want to, again, we're in a rumble this week. So if you wanted to risk it, I get it. But I think Melvin Gordon with the save points is probably where I would lean. PPR, Gibby, Elijah, Zay, Peters. I'll tell you what, Aiden, if the Commanders do not activate Brian Robinson, you're going to go with Gibson. Otherwise, I do like Dameon Pierce. The Jags are in a good matchup, unless that's Alec Pierce. But I think Gibson's your guy if no Brian Robinson. You know what? It might not be a bad move to pick up Mike Boone just for tonight because I mean, if you're convinced that you're not going to use Chase Edmonds this week, who I know he's been scoring touchdowns, but his utilization is garbage. Like it's not good. Like Raheem Mostert, like you already have Mostert, so you have the guy that's going to be on the field more. So I like what you've done there already. But again, like even like Matt Boehm, he's nervous about Melvin fumbling, stumbling Gordon, and let me just talk about Melvin for a little bit. So I follow Football Guys. They're one of the best fantasy sites out there. One of their lead contributors, his name is Cecil Lammy. He works for Denver. And last week in the first half, Melvin Gordon only got 2 snaps. Javonte played 23 out of 25 snaps. So essentially, Melvin Gordon was benched in like the first half last week. It was all Javonte. It was looking like Javonte finally was going to break through with the opportunity. And then in the second half, Javonte didn't play. Mike Boone went in there first. And then, of course, Gordon comes in, he fumbles, and then he was relegated back to the bench. So I don't know if I trust Melvin Gordon exactly. I think tonight it might be a good idea to pick up Mike Boone and just see what happens. Because if Boone has a big game, he's going to be on everyone's waiver wire minds next week. So I think if you're not going to use Edmonds this week, do this, play the stash, and who knows if Boone goes out and has a big game, great, you already got him. If he goes and has a bad game and it doesn't look good for him, fine, you can cut him next week and see what happens. But I think the range of outcomes there, it's worth a gamble. Good evening to you, sir. Zach Ertz or Hunter Henry? Henry, we should be dropping Hunter Henry. Henry should not be owned. He can't be trusted. So this Zach Ertz all day. Let's see. Is it too early to pick up Tyquan Thornton? I would. I wouldn't pick him up in a 10 or 12 man league. If you're playing in a 10 or 12 man league, I don't think he's going to be useful. In a dynasty league, yeah, he should be owned. If it's anything more than a 12 man league, I'm fine with it. But I think in a 10 or 12 man league, I'm not going to go picking up Tyquan Thornton. What about benching Juju? He's been disappointing this year. So Juju has been disappointing. He's not really adding value to his role, I would say, and it's all Travis Kelce all the time. As it stands right now, Juju's wide receiver 48. It's not like he's playing amazingly. He's averaging about 10.4 PPR points per game. But I would say if you look at his range of outcomes here, call it 14, 4, 14, and 10. It's a high enough floor. I like the targets 8, 8, 8, and then the 3 is obviously bad. But for the most part, he's kind of locked into 4 or 6 receptions per game. So I think if you're okay with the floor for 10 points, I'm fine with it. And essentially, what you're going to want to do is as soon as he pops off for a big game, you might want to trade him. But I'm open to it. I think at this point, especially in our league, Matt, where we can start 2 receivers and then 2 flexes, he's kind of that number 2 flex where he's like a fringe wide receiver 3 or 4. It's not great. He's at this point, he's very similar to like a Hunter Renfrow type outlook, just kind of like a PPR play. 8 to 12 points is probably what you're looking at. So he has been disappointing, but that's where he's at. Thoughts on Montgomery, and should I start Algier over him in PPR? It's an awful matchup for Algier. I know he was a hot pickup this week. I actually was not advising people to do so. If you look at the fantasy points allowed to the running back position here, Tampa Bay, one of the nastiest fronts against the running back. They're allowing only 17 points per game to the position. And they're going to mix in, it's going to be Algier, Huntley, and then maybe even Avery Williams. So there's kind of like a 2-3 man rotation there at running back. I do not trust Algier, especially against a good defense. And then guess what? They play San Francisco next week. It's going to be another tough week next week too. So if Montgomery plays, you play Montgomery. Good evening to Emmy. Hope you're doing well. Pick a wide receiver and a flex. We got Gallup, Doobity Doobs, Hines, Zay Jones, ETN, B-Rob, full PPR. I have Judy as a wide receiver 1 and Pierce and Stevenson as my RBs. Okay, I like your Pearson Stevenson locked in at running back. I like Judy as well. For a flex play, Nyheim Hines does offer a safe, 8 to 12 point floor this week. So if you want to play it safe, I think Nyheim is fine. I do not think we're going to see Brian Robinson this week, and even if he plays, I wouldn't recommend starting him. The players that I'm probably looking at would be Michael Gallup. I think that's going to be a fun game here, and last week's usage, especially guys coming back like from their first game, I was pleasantly surprised with what we saw from him. I'm looking for Dallas and Washington here. Let me see if I can find it for you guys. Let me just keep scrolling here. I'm looking for the usage from last week's game. So here we go. So last week, CeeDee Lamb, Noah Brown, the top two receivers in terms of snaps, but Michael Gallup, number 2 in routes run, only 2 targets, but he catches a touchdown. So I think it's not a super exciting play. It is Cooper Rush as well, but I'm open to Gallup. I'm open to Dobbs. So short story, if you want to play it safe, go with Nyheim Hines tonight. Just collect those 10 to 12 points. Otherwise, you're looking at Gallup versus Dobbs. I'm going to lean Dobbs. I'll go with Dobbs because I know he's going to be out there more. So I would rank them Hines, Dobbs, Gallup, and then ETN probably the next. Corey D or Jeff, non-PPR rest of season. That one's tough because if you need receivers, I'm going to say if Corey Davis is your number 4 receiver, that's pretty valuable. And if you need Jeff to be your number 2, number 3, that holds more value. So I think if you need running backs, Jeff is the guy. And I know Elijah Mitchell's coming back at some point, but Jeff looks good. So I think if you need RB help, I would keep Jeff. We did that the other night, my man. Andrew says, let Russ cook, coach. We'll see. We'll see if it's Gourmet or DiGiorno tonight. Wilson tonight or Lawrence. I have a good feeling about Russell Wilson tonight. I think he's going to have himself a nice game. He's probably going to, collect 2 touchdowns, maybe 250 yards, something like that as his floor. In terms of quarterback points, though, Trevor Lawrence going up against Houston. Houston doesn't allow a lot of quarterback points, surprisingly. It's kind of a tough matchup on paper here, but teams are just running the ball so well against Houston, and they did play the Bears in that one game, so that is kind of limiting it. But the Indianapolis Colts giving up about 16.49. I think you want to roll with Wilson tonight. And just because I think the matchup for the Jags on Sunday, it's going to be all about the running game. I could see James Robinson getting a touchdown or 2 in this one. So I think you roll out Wilson tonight. Yes, sir. Yeah, man, no problem. I appreciate you guys hanging out with the questions. This is what we do every Thursday night. Every Wednesday night too. If you guys have more questions, usually my schedule is we go live on Wednesday nights for a good 40 minutes to an hour, 7 p.m. Central Time, and then I'm always going to go live before the Thursday night game. So if you guys do have questions, I'm here for you Wednesday, Thursday. Let me see what else I can find as far as player news here. Interesting, the Eagles kicker is going to miss time here. I don't know if you guys are relying on him, but he's going to miss time. It looks like Daniel Jones is going to play in London, so that's going to be interesting. We'll see if he can outduel the Packers. Again, Treylon Burks is not going to play for a week or 2 with that toe injury. It might be like a Liz Frank kind of toe situation. I think Matt Jones might play this week. We'll see. It might be Bailey Zappi otherwise. Let me see what else we can find here. PPR, Elijah Moore, Mac, DPJ. Go with Elijah Moore. Pierce or ETN at flex, full PPR. If that's Dameon Pierce, I want Dameon Pierce. Just because he's locked into the volume. You're collecting 15 to 20 touches. And last week he showed, man, he could take one to the house from 75 yards out. I think that's a lot more than ETN has showed us so far. And typically, what I care about with my running backs is touches. And I think it's very clear that Pierce is going to get his touches. I have a couple teams. The first one here being my Packers team. So I'm big in the Packers. For the AFC, I think I'm the Chargers. I'll go with the Chargers, but I'm all Packers. Muth or Ertz, full PPR. I think I'm terrified about that matchup against Buffalo. I'm going to go with Zach Ertz. I think Zach Ertz is a top 5 tight end this week. And if I need to sell it to you even further, Zach Ertz has his best matchup of the year for tight ends. So, all right, my bad here. Where is Philly? Philly's been actually kind of stingy, but it's also a revenge game for him. If we would have looked at this a week or 2 ago, they would have been pretty high. But for the last year and a half or so, the Eagles have been pretty generous to the tight end. And it looks like Rondale Moore might not play, so Zach Ertz for sure. Should I trade Olave and J-Rob for CMC? So Derek, if you can give me the team, that would help me. Because I was just gonna ask, like, are you starting Olave and James Robinson? Like, if you can pull off the 2-for-1, I'm always for the 2-for-1, especially when you're getting the clear, best player. So let's look at this team here. Brady, Eckler, J-Rob, Debo, Pittman, Jamal, Mark, Dolphins, Butker. Okay, so you're cashing out James Robinson, putting in CMC. You still have Jamal Williams as your 3, which I'm fine with. And then your receivers look fine. I guess I have one more. Like, am I able to see your bench depth? I just want to see, because it looks like you're trading Olave. Bench is Gabe, Thielen. So you're good at receiver for sure. So I see why Olave is expendable. And then you got Melvin and Cam Akers on the bench. I'm cool with it, man. If you're able to pull off CMC in a 2-for-1, I think you probably ought to do it. I declined trading away JJ for Mixon and Devonta Smith. Was that a bad decision? Well, I mean, Justin Jefferson's the clear best player in that trade, so I understand why you declined it. And then with Mixon, I mean, he was kind of stale the first 3 weeks. He kind of finally roared to life last week and looked good, but we're still kind of concerned about that offensive line for the Bengals. And then with Devonta Smith, man, he's had 2 absolute garbage games and 2 absolute banger games, so it's going to be tough to trust him. So like, I think if you absolutely needed the depth, I would say it's okay. But man, Justin Jefferson, man, like it's hard to send him away. Jerry, thanks for hanging out, my man. We got the Ertz question before, and now we're looking at Brandon Cooks or Terry McLaurin, full PPR. Brandon Cooks last week finally came to life. Let me look at his range of outcomes so far this year. Where is B Cooks? B Cooks. Why can't I find you? So I'm assuming the Texans are gonna have to throw the ball this year, or on Sunday here. So you're looking at a 15, an 18, a 9, and a 4. Clearly, we do not want the 4. That was just a weird game. I think that's an outlier. So to me, Cooks is going to get his 9 to 15 points. I feel good with that. With McLaurin's got one of the best matchups of the week here. You see Tennessee allows a lot of fantasy points to the wide receiver. They've allowed the most touchdowns to the wide receiver as well. And the thing with McLaurin this week, no Jahan Dotson. He's out with a hamstring. And it looks like Curtis Samuel has missed practice Wednesday and Thursday with an illness. I think he's going to play, but maybe he's not quite 100%. So I think Terry McLaurin's your guy here. Dylan, you got to go with Dylan, man. I think tonight the way to approach Denver's backfield is, if you need to start Melvin Gordon, I'm cool with it. I think he's got an 8 to 12 point opportunity for PPR floor. And I think Boone could be interesting. I think he could be annoying for Melvin Gordon owners tonight, but AJ Dillon's just locked into 15 to 20 touches per game. I think you got to roll with that. It's kind of the safe thing. It's the Giants. I think it's going to be Dillon that you're going to want in your lineup. But we're hanging out for another 3 or 4 minutes. If you guys got questions, keep firing them. During tonight's game, I'll probably start posting some TikToks and stuff for the weekly matchups. And by the way, so I typically do live streams on Saturday evening and Sunday. I'm going to be unavailable this weekend. I'm actually headed back home to Green Bay. I got some family things to do this weekend, so no live streams this weekend, but I'm going to try and be there available. If you guys want to add me on Twitter, that's one of the best places to ask me questions. You can just either tweet at me or message me. Those are both good ways, or on the TikTok, or comment the video, whatever is easiest for you guys. But I think we got pretty much everything covered tonight. I'm excited. A quick note that Rashad Bateman's probably not playing this weekend. So if you need a wide receiver or just want to add someone to your bench, man, that's Devin Duvernay. Devin Duvernay has been playing pretty well. Dalton Schultz or Pat Famous, I would drop Alexander Madison. I'll stick with Dalton Schultz. I know he got a goose egg last week, but I'm going to stick with Dalton Schultz. I think it's a good matchup. That Cowboys-Rams game is probably going to be pretty dang good. Let me pull that up here, actually. I thought it had a high point total. Let me double check this. Cowboys and the Rams. 43 implied. That's actually a low score. I'm still going to stick with Dalton Schultz in PPR. I think he'll get back on track here. But anyways, that's going to do it for me, guys. If you have any questions, Twitter, TikTok, whatever platform you need, otherwise just comment on the YouTube video. So I'm going to get ready for the game, maybe set some more DFS lineups, but that's it. Thank you guys for hanging out with me. Enjoy the game, and yeah, we'll see you guys later. Peace.